Welcome back to the next episode of the Rebel Tribe podcast. So let's be honest. When most of us hear the words public relations, we picture glossy press releases, big brands, people in suits making announcements behind a podium. But what if I told you you're already doing PR every single day? In your comments, your conversations, your stories, your emails, just the way you show up in your community. Well, today's guest is going to really bring home what PR means for everyday entrepreneurs and small business owners. I'm joined by Lydia Fletcher, founder of Fletcher Media Consulting, who just had to go grab her coffee.
Yes, we are back. We are back. Had to go quickly make that run, but we're here. Very excited to be here. Like Melodian said, I'm Lydia Fletcher. I'm the founder of Fletcher Media Consulting. We're a PR firm based here in Northwest Arkansas, mostly telling the stories of the built environment, really technical stuff that we try to make personal, and also just trying to teach people that PR is not as scary as some people think. Yes, I am in a suit today. Today is one of those days where I get to be, but PR is a skill you can use in your everyday life, and it can really propel you, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, forward.
Okay, so what you heard me say in the introduction that, when most of us hear public relations, we think big brands and press releases. I mean, I'm just a little, I'm just a small podcaster. I don't think PR really. How do you define PR in the everyday for a small business or a solo entrepreneur?
I mean, when people think about public relations, they have an interesting reputation with it. It's actually kind of funny. PR kind of needs to give its own industry some PR, in my opinion. But when we think about PR in the everyday, it's really just reputation management. And everyone has a reputation, whether you're an individual, a business owner, a part of a large corporation, or not even working, maybe you're a stay-at-home parent. All of you have a reputation. um, and I think it's really important that you're understanding that what message precedes you when you enter a room is kind of what drives your success, whether that's for a job interview, making friends, making sales in your business. It's all about how you show up in the room, how you communicate, how you're building trust and nurturing relationships before you ever really need anything from someone.
So what do you think the biggest misunderstanding that most of us small business owners have about PR?
Oh God. My biggest thing is that I think small businesses think of PR as crisis recovery rather than proactive. I think a lot of times when we think about PR firms, we think about how they are there to clean up messes and help us when things go wrong. But what if PR was also there for when things go right and highlighting those things? So some of the best work I've done has been in the proactive planning side of PR rather than, the crisis cleanup. I've done that. I think every PR firm has done that at some point. It's stressful, it's hard. You don't enjoy it, but you find value in it. And then you're making sure your client's succeeding. But really, what drives client success is that positive reputation. So you build that through events, through social posts, through creating a connection to the people in the company or the product that the company sells. So it is not just a cleanup service, I promise.
So for someone that's small, like so many, there's a ton of small businesses here in Northwest Arkansas. It's amazing. I love it. What are
Yeah.
some simple everyday actions that maybe actually count as PR that most of us don't realize we're already doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think the entrepreneurial community of Northwest Arkansas is something really special, and it's something that has helped propel my business. I mean, it connected us, just one of the free networking groups. And one of the things I've always tried to instill in people is that you can do PR for free. There are things you can do that drive your PR, that drive your reputation higher. These are things like sending thank you emails after a meeting or opportunities. You get someone's business card. You know how nice it is to actually email them and be like, hey, it was great to connect with you at event. Looking forward to seeing you soon. That's the kind of thing that's really going to make them remember you. It's that personal touch. If someone referred you business, whether you're able to give them a true referral bonus or not, send them a nice email, send them a card, do something that recognizes the work that took for them to trust you enough to refer someone they trust to your business. I think just showing up consistently, professionally, online, and in person, if you're known for going to a networking event, try to continue showing up to that. If you are known for having a series on social media, try to continue that series. And then, really, the biggest thing is something I instill in myself as a solo founder and something I instill in all my clients is that founder focused approach where like people want to see what you actually do in your everyday life. They want to see what drives your business, what it looks like behind the scenes. So if you can share some of that, some of your wins, but even more importantly, some of your losses, make yourself look more human by sharing some of that vulnerability. It is such an advantage. And so those personal touches, those building those personal relationships, thanking people, showing gratitude is huge. And then being willing to admit what's going right and what's going wrong, I think is the biggest way people can build up trust, which is really what PR is.
That's amazing because I preach that a lot is don't be afraid to share the messy. Okay. None of us have this
Yes.
most of us think of, social media as this curated picture perfect world, and for the most part it is. So if you're out there showing the truth behind the scenes, that goes a long way towards creating, trust. So I feel great now that I have been validated by a PR expert.
Yeah, no, it's really one of those things where when you think about it, everyone knows that no one is picture perfect, right? I think like I'm in my mid 20s and I grew up in the era where, Instagram was really taking off when I was in this very young and impressionable age. And I thought everyone had it together and that it was awful that I didn't and that I was like failing or things were going wrong. But really, it was that people were not really talking about the hard parts of their life, and social media was built to be this picture perfect thing. But I'm finding more and more as social media has evolved and as, I've grown up, the post where someone talks about, something going wrong or a challenge they've had to work through, you know, that strikes a chord with me way more. And a PR agency can help you figure out how to strategically talk about what's going wrong. You have a bankruptcy in your past. You have a, major mental health challenge you had to go through, something that really impacted you or your business. Those are two kind of what I would consider crises that someone may be like, hey, I don't want this super public. But this is something that's impacted my journey. How do you talk about that in a way that doesn't scare people away and really just draws them to trust you more? So that's what I help people do pretty much every day.
We talked a little bit about showing, people behind the scenes in our day-to-day life and everything. How can we, as small business owners, how do we turn that normal daily? It's, for the most part, it's pretty boring. I mean, what I do for the most part is pretty boring every day. How can
Right.
we turn that into a story that people actually care about?
I mean, so much of my work is centered around finding the magic in the mundane. That's kind of a phrase I use with my business because I work with people who are quite literally building places. They're developing walkable neighborhoods. They are advocating for better active transportation, bike lanes, things that really drive human connection, right? And so looking for the why behind what they do. Yes, tomorrow I'm coordinating a grand opening for an apartment complex in Rogers. Why did my client build that? Why did they build in that location? That's the story we're driving. Great. 45 more units added to downtown Rogers. Wonderful. I believe everyone should have housing. housing choice is such a great way to increase the amount of units we have in a smaller amount of space. But why does he develop apartments like that? Why does he develop in downtown Rogers? That's the story we're telling. And so people are going to connect more with your company's purpose, your story, really diving deep into this is how we do things and this is the success it drives. It needs to be more of a here's what I'm doing, here's what I'm learning, rather than a look what I offer. So PR is essentially storytelling about context and meaning. We aren't selling a product. And so we really get to massage out the best parts of a project and bring that to life rather than relying on sales and, marketing numbers to drive us forward.
So what does make a story media worthy, at the
Oh,
like at the local level here? What would make
okay.
my story media worthy?
So, I'm a former journalist. That's a huge part of my background. So, I actually never planned on being an entrepreneur. It is a huge part of my business's story. I worked in journalism for almost a decade. I started when I was 17, and it was truly some of my favorite years of my life. And through that, I got to work with local publications in multiple different locations. So, when you're thinking about local stories, right, they have to have impact. Who does this help? Who does this serve? What is the impact? And if you can put a number to it, that's even better. Community benefit. Does this improve the area? Does this have community backing? What does this truly serve? What is its purpose? And then obviously timeliness. This is just so important whenever you're pitching to the media, you're talking to press. No one really wants to hear about an apartment grand opening when you're a month away from it, right? They want to be at the grand opening. They want to attend the event. They want to be boots on the ground, experience it with you. And so you really have to think about why now is the time to cover it. And that's also something where, if you're launching something new, you want to make sure you have a couple teasers beforehand, but the fruit of the story is right before you open and then at opening. And then also just what's going to make a story better is humanization, right? We want to know the human story behind the product, the development, the company. Who's the person behind this? Who can speak best to what's happening in this project or, whatever you're trying to sell? It's a product. Okay, who does it serve? Who's the person that thought of this? Why did they think of this project or product? What's the story behind it? And so, whenever you can tie something to a community connection for that local level or a larger trend that the community is experiencing, right? So, a lot of times I work, like I said, my client base is commercial real estate, architecture, engineering, construction, really thinking through what is shaping Northwest Arkansas. One of the biggest things we're talking about right now is population growth. We also talk a lot about affordability and housing. And so, how can I connect my clients who are in the housing space to this trend of housing? How can we talk about how, even if a client isn't developing a unit that happens to be at affordable housing prices, how that helps people who are in affordable housing units that could move into something higher, have the opportunity to move into something maybe a little more spacious, a little more luxury, and then opening those units for people that need that affordable housing rate. And so, how can we connect the story into this larger social fabric is a huge part of PR.
So for someone with no money, let's say
Yeah.
zero marketing budget, okay, what are
Yeah.
a few PR moves that they could start using like today or this week?
Yeah, you have no money and no budget to put toward marketing or doing PR for your business. My biggest advice is identify three people you want a working relationship with and send them a nice message over email, or if you don't have their email, message them on LinkedIn. That can be seeing someone post about, something new within their company, commenting something on their post, and then private messaging them, asking them to coffee. It can be congratulating someone, thanking someone, or even just following up with someone. Maybe you had coffee with them about a month ago and it kind of dropped to the wayside. Go send another email. Really, it's the holidays, and so we kind of have this perfect excuse to check in with people. We can really be, intentional about who we want to send holiday greetings to, maybe, chat about what they're moving through in 2026 and see if there's room to collaborate. And then pitching yourself is free, right? You can use a PR agency to have better access to media contacts, better understanding of who they are, what they do, what they cover, but sending an email is free. And so you can think of a pitch to a local podcast or a community newsletter and be like, hey, I am this business. I would love to be featured in your newsletter. My only advice, make sure you actually read the newsletter or listen to the podcast. Please, do not pitch someone just because they have a title you like. You need to actually engage with their content. And then you can share a story online, just write a social media post, a blog post on whatever social channels about a project, lesson, or win within your company. Don't make it an ad. It needs to be a story and really see the difference between what advertising copy and what storytelling copy do for your company.
I'm glad you talked about reaching out to local media because when I first moved out here, like back in '93, I worked
Yeah.
for I worked in the nonprofit sector and I worked for the Girl Scout Council here.
Okay.
And it used to bug people, even the council head herself, that I was always able to get my troops into the news. Just my little lowly troops were always in the news. And she's like, how are you doing this? Well, it's because I made it a point to go meet all of the
Yeah.
journalists so they knew me. How important
Yeah.
is that, those relationships with like local media and podcast hosts, community platforms? And how do you
It's
kind of build those without feeling awkward or like I'm only in this because you can help me? Okay. How
Oh,
do you
I
build those?
mean, those relationships are everything, but they have to be organic, right? Like you understand when a company reaches out to a reporter that they are wanting something. But the reporter also relies on stories to publish, right? We wouldn't have news if there weren't people pitching stories. We wouldn't have, you know, I'm so pro journalist, obviously, from my previous career, to where I'm so pro news, to where journalists also rely on the public to figure out the stories that are important right then. And so whenever you're reaching out, don't ask them to coffee initially because it really needs to be something where you're like, hey, I really enjoyed this article about, XYZ that you wrote. Would love to chat with you about that, or would love to find out what you're looking for future coverage. And so genuinely engage with and read their work. Introduce yourself when you don't need coverage, please, please, because when I was a reporter, it absolutely killed me when people would email and they've never spoken to me before and they're like, hey, by the way, you should come cover this. Okay, why? Why should I do that? Sorry, this coffee shop got warm. We are taking off the jacket. But really, it's so important to think about like what you can do for them before they do something for you. And then just make their job easier. Authenticity goes an incredibly long way with everything you're doing, and just be authentic to them. Think about how do you actually approach someone, not like it's a sales conversation, but like it's actually something productive and a relationship. Check in on them. See, if they move companies, try to follow up with them at the next company. Really just don't make it to where you're trying to sell your company to them. That's the biggest thing. Also, I'm going to take a pause and grab a drink because I haven't been able to this whole time, and I really need to. And maybe
Mm.
this won't spill all over me. There we go.
So a lot of my client base is small business owners, as you know, and when I talk to them about one of the first questions I ask them is, "How are you marketing your business?" And like, we post on social media.
That's
Yeah,
so, yeah,
that's their PR. So how do you see the
yes.
difference between marketing, social media, and PR?
Okay, so I kind of have a little mantra I tell clients about all of this because true I'm trying to word this right. People who have done research about PR versus marketing understand we aren't the same thing. So, marketing is what you say about yourself. Social media is the platform you say it on, and PR is what other people say about you, right? And so, marketing is your internal content. That is your blog post. That is your website copy. It's your social media. PR is managing people's responses to how you publicly present yourselves and shaping the overarching themes and attitudes they have toward you, your product, your company. So PR is all about building credibility, and then your marketing is all about converting that credibility into a sale or a partnership, whatever that looks like for you.
So how can we use social media in a way that actually supports like real PR and credibility?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about showing your work, showing your thinking, and your true community impact. Whenever you're posting consistently about your processes, your values, your expertise, and your wins, you're creating kind of this public archive of credibility. Reporters can look you up and they already see what you've done. People who are in that phase of we might work with you, we might not, can look you up and see your values, see what makes you you, and then clients can build that, feeling of camaraderie if you have personalized touches on your social media. So it's really all about, this business idea of know, like, and trust, right? I'm forgetting where that's from, but it's really important to realize that that is a driving factor. People have to know you, which is what PR is, increasing that brand awareness, increasing the communications, increasing the, strategic vulnerability is how I'm going to word it about how you talk about what you do and why you do it. They have to like you. Also, PR. They have to genuinely have a good attitude whenever your name comes up, your brand, your product, whatever that is, they need to have positive rapport with it, right? And then they need to trust you. They need to trust you to have quality product, quality projects, whatever that looks like. They trust you with their business and many times with their money. And so it's just so important to consider that. And PR shapes all of that. Your marketing just helps convert it.
Well, I'm glad you brought up know, like, and trust because I preach that a lot. I keep
Yes.
telling my clients, you are not Walmart. They are not going to come
No.
to you just because that you have that big name recognition behind you. You have to develop that know, like, and trust factor. And reputation
Yeah,
is everything. So what are some
it
habits
really
that
is.
quietly build long-term trust?
Okay. Really, whenever you think about that, you want to follow through quickly with people, right? You get an email, you follow through with it as soon as you can. Now, that doesn't mean you're compromising your work boundaries. Someone emails you at 9 p.m. on a Sunday, they don't need to be emailed till Monday morning, right? But you want to email them Monday morning. Show gratitude. Thank people for covering you. Thank people for engaging with your product, your project, whatever that looks like. Be transparent. Really think about, if you're having to talk about, let's say, a price change, what's driving that? Is it that the just straight material to make your product is increasing in cost? Is it to where you've hired a new staff member and you need to make sure you're prioritizing adequate pay for them? Whatever that looks like for you, your clients and your customers deserve transparency. And then own your mistakes. Do not deflect blame. We're going to get into that, but please be willing to genuinely own up to where you messed up and how you plan on fixing it. And then just show up consistently with your communications. That's online, that's in person, that's at events. Be the brand that you built. And that includes personal brands. This is not just for business. You're known for XYZ as a person. If those are traits you enjoy having, those are habits you enjoy having, continue embodying that. Continue benefiting your neighbors with whatever that embodies. You're known for being the person in your neighborhood that someone can call for a cup of flour. If you can still do that, be the person with the cup of flour, right? I mean, I've literally texted a neighbor a few times. I'll be like, "Hey girl, do you have an extra egg?" Because I was baking and I didn't want to go to Walmart. Or it was like past 11 p.m. and Walmart was closed and she's a night owl. And you know what? She walked to my house and gave me an egg. And it's really about like, okay, I know she can do that. I obviously dropped a thank you note off. I sent her a nice text and I've dropped off a gift. She recently got baptized. I gave her a gift for that, like congratulating her because that was a huge life moment for her to where I don't expect anything in exchange. I just want to, congratulate my friend on something that is a big life milestone, you know?
I'm just sitting here thinking of all the things that
Yeah.
that I could be doing now that I'm not probably that good
Hey,
at.
look, these are small habits, and I think it's said that it takes 21 days to build a habit, right? I read every night. I have, I think, almost 100 days in a row reading. I am a huge reader. This is a huge part of what I do outside of work to recharge. And so it's all about how can I show up for myself 10 pages a night minimum. It's not that big of a commitment, but I enjoy reading and it lets me have that recharge time. Sometimes PR is taking care of yourself too, to make sure that you can show up in the right way to potential clients, to your customers, to your friends and your partners. I think it's so important that we are consistently looking at how we communicate across the board and how we can bring that into our everyday relationships, not just our businesses.
I want to talk a little bit about something because it's something that has actually very much come to the forefront of my view this past week on a couple of
Yeah.
levels. So someone that I was thinking of inviting to speak at the next summit has suddenly started like sharing her. And I'm not saying you should never share your story online. Please do, but
There's,
it's become obsessive and it's become
yes,
very, I don't know. It's just I don't even read her posts anymore because it's just like I do not want to go down that path with you again. I
yes,
understand you had problems. Go fix them. And when things go
yes.
wrong, so I posted something the other day and somebody came back and commented on it. I thought it was very uplifting and motivational. And he came back and wrote a comment that it was the most, how do you put it? The most cat woman, cat lady,
Oh,
cat lady, bat box wine loving boomer thing he'd ever said in his entire he'd ever read in his entire life. And my first instinct was to just go, wow, okay, like what do
I
you mean?
mean,
And that
that
would have been a
sounds like
mistake.
projection. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, because handling comments and disagreements is a lot of what I do. I'm in the housing space, I'm in the development space. We deal with people who are terrified of what's going to go in their backyard, right? There's this whole movement of not in my backyard or NIMBYs, as we call them. And they freak out and they go to city council meetings and they make up these scenarios that don't always make sense or aren't actually rooted in fact and logic. And so often we're having to think through how can we pivot the communication around something to cater to what's actually the root of that. For a lot of what is going against my clients is fear, right? How do you respond? How do you listen to that fear? Now, with the gentleman who commented on your post, the way that was commented makes me think, okay, he's projecting. It's a lot of the he's going to throw out, whatever insult he sees fit. He sees a confident older woman and he may feel threatened, he may feel inadequate, whatever feelings are coming to the surface for him are then being projected through his commentary on the keyboard, right? So if that were a client of mine, I'd be like, oh, don't respond to that. You can keep it up, but I wouldn't respond to that because it's based in insult rather than inquiry, right? Because if he had thought about it of like, hey, I'm really interested at where you got XYZ that doesn't really align with what I'm seeing, or like, I don't really agree with this, would love to chat about the process that you thought of for this or whatever is the disagreement, right? you want to continue conversations with people that are willing to approach you with curiosity rather than antagonism. And so, if you happen to be on the side where you have done a wrongdoing, or something has been misconstrued, misrepresented, it is vital and essential that you take responsibility as soon as you find out, right? And so, really thinking through, okay, I'm trying to think because I've been very lucky in my career that this is not the kind of mistake I've had to clean up where people are attacking a client for something. But let's say you are, okay, this is not a client, but let's say you're an architecture firm, right? And you have been contracted to build a development in an area that's a little contentious. People are not super happy about where it's being built. And then something happens with the project, and you're kind of at the forefront because people are really mad about the design. And then you realize, oh, we need to revise the design. How do you how do you come forward and are like, hey, we noticed these are the needs of the neighborhood or the neighbors. This was our initial design. This initial design was a mistake as it dismissed these needs. This is what we're doing to correct it and look forward to hearing more public commentary, right? You want to acknowledge, you want to take corrective action if you can and clarify the facts. People let crises arise when they go silent or they get defensive. It's all about bringing that human response to life of like, we hear you, here's what we're doing about it, and then actually taking the corrective action. I mean, whenever you think about um, how this works in personal relationships, right? Someone says, hey, you really hurt my feelings. The best thing you do is you're like, hey, I see that. I'm very sorry. Here's what I can do to make sure that doesn't happen again. I know earlier this week I posted about one of my clients' events, and somebody commented about how they did not want to be at an event that was so alcohol centric. And I think the reason they got that messaging from it is that it's a New Year's Eve event. We're obviously having a midnight champagne toast, and the champagne is complimentary for the midnight toast. And that was in the post, but there's potential that she saw that it was complimentary, there we go, champagne the entire night. And that is just not the case. And she put something in the comments. Someone else ended up replying to her about how she was looking for more family-friendly events. She might want to go for something earlier in the evening. Makes perfect sense to me as well. That would have been something I suggested. Also, it's a 21 plus event, and that was marketed in the flyer. And so the most I could do is I could comment back to her and I would say, hey, name, really appreciate your feedback. It's not published on here, but all of our parties have mocktail options. For the champagne toast specifically, we'll be providing sparkling white grape juice for those who do not wish to partake. I don't drink. I'm an event organizer. I'm going to happily sip my, white grape juice whenever midnight hits and welcomes us into 2026. And that's something that the event organizer, my client, has prioritized in making sure we provide options for those who are wanting or needing to stay sober that evening. And so now on all of our posts, we make sure to clarify here's cocktail and mocktail options provided so that people understand as long as they're willing to be around alcohol and that's a boundary that they are okay with, then they can come to our events and have a good time and still be provided options that would allow them not to drink. We know designated drivers are going to be there that night. We want to make sure they have a good time too. And so it's all about pivoting with respect and really bringing to light what you're doing to solve the problem. And so just be human with it. It's pivoting with humanity is probably the best way to put it.
Well, I admit I am fairly immune to most people's snide little comments, and it did. There was an instant little flare up of anger. Fortunately, I was able to not respond in anger. Um,
Yeah.
But I can see
Yeah.
what struck me afterwards is if someone who is just starting out with their business or who is maybe not as confident, it would have
Yeah.
immediately maybe caused them to struggle with, with their visibility and their confidence. So how can PR help someone own their voice, I guess, without
Yeah.
feeling fake or perform? How can you be yourself in marketing yourself and your
Yeah.
business and your brand without having to feel like you're being fake or performative?
Yeah. I mean, really, PR is so rooted in consistency that you get used to talking about what you do and why you do it. And so whenever you're talking about that on a regular basis, you're really thinking about like, why do I do what I do? You are so, self-reflective, and you're able to, talk about your story and your journey to where it feels like a breeze after a while. And so I think really knowing yourself, knowing the purpose of you, your product, your project, whatever it is, knowing why you do what you do and knowing how to tell people about it is really something I found personally that's a confidence driver. I'm able to say I founded a PR firm because I believe everyone has a story and they should know how to share it. I especially work within my sector because a lot of times they face challenges from the general public that I believe are rooted in an information gap. Very used to saying that because that is why I do what I do. And it's something where I've got a pretty spitfire personality at times and very much willing to put my head to the grindstone to get things done. But it's very like a comment like that, I'd be like, okay, you woke up on the wrong side of the bed and I look like someone that you have issues with. Those are the two things that come to mind, right? And for me, so much of PR is having that rooted feeling in yourself because you feel aligned, you know your purpose, and you're able to communicate that. And that's what really is going to drive you forward.
So what would you say? I know for myself for the longest time, I always felt like I'm just a little small entrepreneur. I'm too small to be worried about all this stuff. What would you say to the woman entrepreneur or even just the woman her general who feels just too small for PR?
Some of the best projects and best companies and biggest companies have started in someone's garage, but really they all started just by someone writing down their idea, right? And so there is no such thing as too small because we all start somewhere. We all have, like, I'm so driven by the fact where I'm like, everyone is unique, everyone has a purpose. We are all, here for a reason. And whenever you find that reason, whenever you're able to live in alignment with that, it's just so much easier and brighter, right? Like, that's the way I put it, where if you are, you know, walking with purpose in your life, you go through it more confidently. You are able to not think of yourself as small because you're like, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is why I do it, right? There's no such thing as being too small because, like I said in my kind of business statement, everyone has a story. Everyone is able to relate to people on some level, right? And so we really want to think about like what what is your story? What is the part of you that you want to share that you think is relatable? Because that's not too small. And everyone has a reputation. You just want to make sure it's a good one.
So I belong to this networking group. You're in it too.
Oh
And we've
yeah.
gone to a couple of their events. They're amazing. And I'm watching some of these entrepreneurs and these businesswomen step up, and they are actually coming out and being community. They're being leaders in the community. And I've met a lot
Yeah.
of women that are taking that step, and you can actually look at them now, and you think of them more as a community leader than you do as a businesswoman. And then
Yeah.
I watched some of the other women there, the other women business owners, and they're just kind of sitting back, not really, not really stepping up. How can
Try not to
women
cough.
business owners, it's okay. How can these women business owners position themselves as these community leaders? Because I'm looking at the ones that are and thinking, I want to get to know these
Yeah.
ladies better. I want to do business with them. I want to collaborate with them. I want to be in their orbit. They're amazing. How can and I'm
Yeah. I
sure
mean,
some of the
whenever
ones
you
that
have
were
that sphere of influence,
how do they
yeah.
position
I
themselves
mean,
that way?
oh, sometimes I'm like sheer willpower, truly being willing to take the rejections. And so, local PR, really thinking about who you are in your community. It can be about like, what are you driving? What are you doing? What is propelling you forward? And how can you bring other people into that fold? And so, whenever you're building up your community PR, it's about who else are you featuring? Who else are you bringing into the fold? Because if you want to be a community leader, no one leads alone, right? You can't lead a group of no people. You have to have people who know you, like you, trust you, want to see what you're doing, want to attend the events you put on. And so when you're trying to build up that reputation, community features, podcast interviews, partnerships with other entrepreneurs, bringing them into your sphere of influence, right? Really thinking about this is who I am. This is what I do. This is why I do it. This is why you should feature me to media. This is why you should partner with me to other businesses. This is why you should attend to people who should be attending your event. And it's really about being a bridge. Whenever you're thinking of networking groups, whenever you're thinking of community groups, you have to be a bridge to build connection between other people because you can invite, member A and member C, but if you're not helping connect them, they're never going to chat. There's no bridge B, right? And so it's all about thinking through how do you create a community if you don't know the purpose of it? So it's back to that alignment of like, this is why we do what we do. And so local PR is really rooting into your community, homing in, seeing their needs, their wants, listening to people. Please listen to people. Active listening, where you are truly engaged and wanting to be a part of the conversation and wanting to do more for them than they can do for you. That's really, in my opinion, what leadership and what community building looks like.
Well, I ask this question of everybody that comes on my podcast, some version of if
Yeah.
you could give the listeners one tip, one something, what would it be? So if you
Oh,
could give
God.
our listeners one PR habit to practice daily
Yes.
or weekly, what would it be?
Oh, God. Okay, weekly. Go through what meetings you had. Look at your calendar. Look at what meetings you had. Set out 30 minutes, maybe. Maybe it won't take that long. And send a thank you email to everyone you met with that week. It needs to be just something of like, hey, name. It was so great chatting with you about XYZ. Really enjoyed that. You talked about something specifically they talked about. Something in the next line needs to be about how you plan on moving this forward, whether it's a friendship, whether it is a partnership, whether it is a sale. Something about, would really love to chat in the next few weeks about XYZ. Have a great weekend. Usually I send these on Fridays. So mine is always have a great weekend. Looking forward to chatting soon. Send. It's so simple. It's a weekly habit. You're thanking them, you're engaging them, you're opening yourself up to collaboration. Now, if the meeting went horribly, right? Okay, if this was a meeting where like you had to fire someone, they insulted you the whole time. No, no. This is for people who you genuinely want to move forward with intention, right? I hate this comparison, but it's true. Networking is like dating, right? Like, you really have to think about how do you not scare them off by trying to sell too quickly? How do you know, have this, back and forth of like, this is how we plan on moving forward. Let's chat, let's get coffee. Really, you don't want to no one is gonna, I can't say no one, but if someone asked me to be their girlfriend on the first date, no, negative, not happening. You can't make the sale on the first date. first meeting, right? And so it's really important to have that genuine back and forth communication where, you know, you say one thing, they say another, and then it slowly but surely moves toward partnership, friendship, sale, whatever that looks like for you.
I like that. That's a pretty simple, easy thing to do. That's all of you can
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
that.
Just
All of
send
you
some
can do that.
emails. Yes, it's not, and it gets you used to just emailing, right? Like I think sometimes I get very nervous if I'm having to send like kind of a formal business email, but if I have that just, hey, thanks for meeting, looking forward to, chatting again soon, it gets me used to emailing that person to where they don't feel like the super scary, oh my God, they could be this great client. They're just a person. It just humanizes them further.
You spoke at my summit in April, the Revolution Summit, and your topic
Yes.
was
Yes.
PR in the everyday. It was so well received. I have to admit, I was
Oh,
a little
thank you.
like, I don't know if this is going to be a good fit for the audience. I liked it, but it was like,
Hey,
but it was really well
it
received.
is.
So, what
Yeah.
message, what message felt like it landed the strongest with the audience that day?
I really think it was that perception change that PR isn't this big scary thing only corporations can do. It's not this cleanup. I really tried to talk about how, like, you as an individual have a purpose, and PR can help you understand that purpose further and share it with the right people. And so, PR is already in your everyday actions. And I just kind of helped explain that further, where how you treat people is your reputation. How you treat people, whether you're business partners, friends, in a relationship, literally just a stranger on the street holding a door open for them. All of that drives how people view you. And so there are ways we can think about reputation and think about PR in a way that's not this big, scary corporate umbrella. And so I'm really glad I got to bring that to that conference. I thought that was such an amazing opportunity and really appreciate you having me. But like, you don't have to be this polished version of yourself. You can be authentic and it just shows up within you every day.
So it's been, we're coming up on a year from now. We'll be doing
Yeah.
the second one here next April. What do you hope
Yeah.
everyday entrepreneurs take away from that same message like a year from now?
Mhm. That you can really build quickly if you have good PR, right? And so if you're known for being this kind, genuine person to do business with, that follows you in a room. You're going to have an easier time selling, getting deals, if you are known for your intentionality with your relationships, people are going to want to have a working relationship with you, right? If you're known for being the best at, encouraging women, women are going to flock to you and want to be encouraged, right? So understand the purpose you bring, be consistent, and they don't have to be these huge moves. You don't have to look larger than you are. You just have to be consistent with your authenticity, and that is going to bring your story to life in a way I think people don't understand unless they've experienced it.
Well, you did a really good job, I think, of explaining what PR is. Like I said, when we first started, everybody thinks of it as
Yeah,
this, this big glossy, and it's not. So
like no,
if you think
no,
if small business owners really really understood that PR was a daily like relationship building tool and not a
yeah.
marketing tactic, how do you think it would change the way they show up?
Oh, they would stop worrying about perfectionism, right? You don't want to be wrong in what you do, but you don't have to be perfect. You have to be authentic. You have to be able to nurture connections. It's not about being the bright, shiny diamond of the room. It's about being able to meet people in the room where you are, explain what you do, why you do it, whether that's work or not. This is the category I talk to the most whenever we're thinking about PR in the everyday, and they don't have a job. You're a stay-at-home parent. Do you know how many people would love to hear that perspective about what being a stay-at-home parent looks like in this day and age? What it looks like for schooling, all these other topics you can connect it to. there are so many things you can do that it's not just your work that drives you, it's your purpose. And so start nurturing connection that makes sense for what that purpose is. Communicate openly, share consistently, and be willing to have a collaborative spirit where, someone's like, maybe they're not exactly in your industry. Maybe you don't think they're the right fit for the conference, but you still invite them anyway. I think without that, I think I of course would have still shown up on the podcast, but it wouldn't be the same exact conversation. And so whenever you start to think about PR as a daily habit, a daily rhythm, it's so much better than just thinking about, oh, something went wrong, someone fix it for me. That's really just authentic connection. If I could just say two words on what PR is, authentic connection. That's it.
And that's pretty much all they need to know. I think that is the biggest
Yeah.
message that came across in that presentation, and it's why I wanted you on the podcast, because so
Oh,
many people, women in particular, think that, well, I am just a stay-at-home mom, or I have a job but I don't have my own business, so what do I need to worry about PR for? And they don't understand
yeah.
that it's you see these people out there that seem to have these amazing lives and everything comes easy to them, or they walk into these opportunities. And what a lot of them don't
Oh,
understand, it's because they have a reputation, regardless of whether they're just stay-at-home moms or they're working for a job or whatever they are. They have this reputation in their communities that precede them. And it opens up these
yes.
doors because people know them, and they they know what they stand for, they know what their value are, and it opens a door. So
Yeah.
PR is for
I mean,
everybody, whether you're a stay-at-home mom, you work at a cashier at Walmart, or whether you have your own
yeah.
business. It's for you. It's for you. So I'm really
Yeah.
glad you
I
got that
mean,
message out there.
yeah, absolutely. This was such a joy to join you on this and just kind of bring to light that sometimes the things we think are these out of reach ideals, out of reach processes for us, when you look into them further and you learn about them, they are something you can do in the everyday. And so I think I just encourage all of you to consider that weekly practice that I mentioned, or really just look into, do you want to learn how to do this more? Would love to chat with y'all. Do you want to, have someone where if a crisis goes wrong, you can have some crisis recovery, but you want to really explore, what is that purpose? How do I communicate that? I think communicating that from a PR perspective is so important. And so, not to be like, plugging myself, because we are about authenticity, but you want to grab a coffee, chat about PR, learn more and explore this, I would love that. My company is Fletcher Media Consulting, based out of Northwest Arkansas. Zoom coffees work great. As we know, I will have a drink on screen, but truly this was such a wonderful opportunity. So thank you for having me.
And I thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your heart, for telling all the stories, and for reminding us that
Yeah.
visibility doesn't have to be this big, loud, glossy thing to be powerful. So I love it.
Yeah,
And if today's episode
absolutely. I
sparks
love it.
something
Well,
for you, make sure you share it with a friend who's building
yeah.
something meaningful. Leave a review, please, so more women can find these conversations. Like, share, do the stuff. Okay, do the stuff. Okay. And
It's a free way. Yeah.
start noticing that,
Yeah.
that everyday PR that you're already creating in how you serve and how you speak and how you show up. And always remember,
Yeah.
you are not too small to be seen. Your work matters. Your story deserves to be heard. So until next time, reach out
Until
to
next time.
reach out to Lydia. I will post her contact information in
Amazing
the comments or in the description. And
description.
go go build bravely. Do it the
Yes.
rebel
Oh,
way.
go build bravely. I love that. Love it.
Thanks so much, Lydia. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks.